welcome back to another episode with Fight Night Picks. As always, we're brought to you by SimBody. Vertiball is now SimBody. If you head on over to their website, simbody.com, you're going to get all the great products that you know and love, including the SimBody Vertiroller and the Vertiball that you have seen most likely here in studio. Look at that. Place it, lock it, attach it, Vertiball, all sorts of great stuff over there if you want to roll out those old tired muscles and you don't want to go with that old lacrosse ball. They're also coming out with that very new product that you can see right in front of you. And if I head on over to my cart, look at that. I've already got a Vertiball over there. Little bit of a deal right there. And if you hit the try for 60 days risk-free, use the promo code FNP and you're going to get 10% off your order. With that code FNP at simbody.com, you're really helping out another local company here in New Brunswick, Canada. Can't wait for it. The new name, SimBody at simbody.com. And as we always say, let's get into it.
A last look at the big card. Be sure to head into the chat and have your say. Let's get into it and join in Fight Night Picks Kicks.
Oh boy, and what a show I have coming for you today. As always, one half of the hosting duo, Craig Allen FNP, Twitter, Instagram. You know the drill, but Matt Allen, I mean, he's on the sidelines this week. He's like Keenan Allen for my San Diego, well, now they're not the San Diego Chargers, they're the LA Chargers, but you get the deal. He's off. He's sick this week. He can't make it. So I'm here. Listen, all of his picks, predictions, previews, all of it does remain the same. Been chatting with him throughout the day, but he doesn't feel good enough to do the show. So that's just the way that we're going to go with it. But I do know that I'm going to need your help over there in the chat. Josh Ayers there. Mr. Blues there. Nick Farron. We've got Los Non saying, salute Craig. The GOAT Ramus going to get a Vertiball thing for his mom. That would be appreciated. Bartholomew's hanging out. R. McDonough sending Matt love. Maybe he can hear me through the floorboards. He can hear me in the basement. Maybe that will get through. Maybe he's watching the show live and he's going to hit up the chat as well. I don't know. But it is a big time week, and listen, I mean, I've been rocking and rolling all week, you know, Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. So in September, we have the Harvest Music Festival. Last night I was out to see, look at that, the Sheepdogs. I mean, hey, does it get better than that? I've seen the Sheepdogs. The night before was St. Paul and the Broken Bones. The night before that was, and I actually had the record already, but the War on Drugs. And I've referenced the War on Drugs in the show before, but I'm a big fan. The Record Company tonight. The Record Company. If you like the Record Company, I know, I think it was How High was on NHL 2022, so a really good band there, and Matt Mays as well from Dartmouth. So a lot of stuff going on in Fredericton this week, and some really big-time fights. I mean, Corey McGregor's hanging out. Aaron's saying, where's Matt? Aaron, he's sick. Craig, you're wrong. So the 04 Celtics, yeah, Matt does love the old NBA comps. And Los Non likes the Sheepdogs. And Professor Chris, War on Drugs from Philly, they definitely are. So some big time concerts, like I said, but where it's heating up, where it comes into these fights, you folks know the drill. The fight of the night screen. Look, I threw Matt here kind of in spirit. So he is here. Lucas A sending love to the boys. That's appreciated. Billy Hazelton as well. And Hype MMA. But I know Matt's excited about this fight too. Damon Jackson, Pat Sabatini. There was some comments up there like, I love Damon Jackson since his fight against Charles Rosa. Man, how about Damon Jackson winning the first 2 rounds of that fight? You had Charles Rosa going balls to the wall in the 3rd round, rallying back to try and win it. Jackson was able to get it done. The Danner get a fight on super short notice, switch up of opponent. Jackson coming into this fight against Pat Sabatini. 2 power grapplers. OJ saying who's the better grappler. Hard to say. You'd say Pat. Pat's definitely the more powerful wrestler out of these 2 guys, but it is hard to say until we get this matchup today. I mean, Damon Jackson, he was an All-American NAIA wrestler. But, man, his jiu-jitsu is so sneaky. It's just, can the power of Pat Sabatini just kind of overdo what Jackson's been able to do in his overall career? I think this is a great fight. Peter Shea saying Sabatini's a younger, better version. And, yeah, it really is hard to say. But it is a great fight and one that you should definitely get excited about. And when we look at our second pick, Corey Sandhagen, Song Yadong. I mean, these are kind of the 2 fights that everybody knows about by now. Of course, in that main event, Sandhagen, Song Yadong at 135 pounds. Both guys looking great on the scales, too. Eager to see. Do we get that boxing-heavy version of Song Yadong that's able to go out there and knock out Corey Sandhagen? Or Corey Sandhagen, can he dance around some of the punches? Can he do such a very good job? We'll get to find that out this weekend. So it is a great fight card. Obviously, when we consider this one, and I'll open it back up to the full-on version, You look at the flag behind me, the Sheepdogs, everything all considered. 3 Canadians on this card. So a lot of exciting stuff there. You have Gillian Robertson, you have Marc-Andre Bettiot, you have Tanner Boser. The Quebecer last week was able to get the win in Johan Liness, whereas the 2 guys from Calgary, you had Chad and Helliger and, of course, Hakeem Dawodu, unsuccessful at a Champions Creed Muay Thai. So interesting for those guys there. Boser's out of Alberta, Bonnyville originally, and then if you look at it for Gillian Robertson, out of Niagara Falls on the Canada side. So some big time moves going through that one. If this is your first time tuning into Fight Night Picks Kicks, I say we, but I thank you. I really do. I know we both thank you for sure. And Aaron's saying the Sheepdogs are great. Saw them at the Stampede a few years ago. I'd always wanted to see them and never got the opportunity. So yeah, it was a really good show last night. They played at one point with 3 guitarists and a bassist. I mean, that's just wild. It's Leonard Skinner-esque from those guys. But if you've never tuned in to Kicks, what we do, we go all the way to the bottom of the card, update those picks and predictions, and then at the end, we go through a final rip-through of everything once everything is all done and said. So when I do look at this card, folks, I was going to say Matt. See, this show is so hard to do just solo. But when you do look at it, the first fight on the night, this one's at lightweight, and the craziest part about it, and it won't be so subtle as how I normally do it, looking at my phone trying to get the votes here on the Instagram poll at Fight Night Picks, but when you do consider this fight between Nikolas Motta and Cameron VanCamp, everybody's steaming the underdog, Cameron VanCamp. I mean, if you look at it, 58% of the votes on VanCamp here, 42% on Motta. Why do you have what you have? I mean, let us know, or let me know, why you're going with VanCamp over Motta or vice versa. I mean, in this fight for VanCamp, this is the first fight at lightweight since he lost in 17 seconds to Thomas Gifford by submission. Now, it's the only no contest that's on VanCamp's record is that fight. Gifford failed a post-fight drug test, so VanCamp's credited with a no contest and not the submission loss. But for VanCamp, I thought he looked all right on the scales, but obviously you're going to drain yourself when you're typically a welterweight. And when you have such a big frame, I mean, we have big lightweights, don't get me wrong, but this guy is a big guy. We have Fam saying if VanCamp can stuff the takedowns, he can pull it off. But for Fam, Nikolas Motta isn't a takedown guy. He's not a takedown artist. Owen saying I like the big size advantage. Christian saying 6'2 versus 5'9 while knowing how to BJJ. That's true. I think that's a really good one right there. Hey, what's up? Roger Craig, last week you're right up. What up, Matty Allen? You're really confusing me with your comment there. And the Goat Ram is saying sound quality is better than usual. Since you're closer to the mic while being solo, Goat Ramus, this is what I sound like in those solo videos when we're spread apart and we're doing our usual stuff. So Clay saying Motta's last showing, I don't buy Miller's veteran season explanation how bad Motta looked and the size advantage. That really is it. I mean, when you do look at Motta and you consider some of his power boxing, he can get behind on the volume numbers in some of his fights, but of course we know him for those powerful, crisp, and speedy boxing combinations. Motta's not a big leg kicker, but when I do look at this fight, just how drained is VanCamp? I need to see VanCamp win a fight in the UFC before I even pick him to win his next fight, and that's kind of where I'm at in this one. I hope somebody can understand that one at least. Don't necessarily love the odds when they open. Motta opened a minus 230 favorite. He's now minus 165. VanCamp open plus 195. He's at a plus 137. But hear me out. Again, I see everybody saying, listen, you got to consider the size advantage. We've seen big guys lose fights. We've seen big guys win fights. So listen, the Stefan Struve account is one of those that you have to consider. But when you look at VanCamp and you consider even just his last performance against Andrea Fialho, who's better than anybody he ever faced on the regional scene, Thomas Gifford included, he was able to crack Fialho with a few of his shots. So I'm kind of surprised that this fight that was originally supposed to take place last September, that got shuffled and moved around, that was supposed to be at lightweight. VanCamp went in and took his fight at welterweight and did look pretty good until he got finished. I'm surprised that VanCamp didn't just think, well, geez, I look good in that fight. Why not just keep going at welterweight? So Laos Non, James Vick was 6'3". That's true. James Vick always kind of struggled against those kicks. And then once you started to kick him and you could get in range of his own kicks, you could really hit him. Tyler saying Chris Barnett is an example. So yeah, that one is true. And listen, I mean, Chris Barnett, wow, what a comeback win last week. So I'm going to keep with the pick of Nikolas Motta here. We were both in agreement on this one. But yeah, it really is interesting. If VanCamp's able to sting with some of those odd angle shots that he throws and some of those great kicks, teeps to the body and his leg kicks, VanCamp could definitely get the win here for the white belt gang with his tattoo that he has on his chest. Thompson, everybody knows VanCamp's a live dog. I think we're to that point there. Then we move into our next fight. Tony Gravely's taking on Javid Basharat. And if you watch Dana White Contender Series this week, Matt had the pick of Farid Basharat. He gets the win. I had Aliskerov as well as Bruno Brazil. And I said, if I get those two right, then they would just count as one pick. And I ended up getting both of them. So not a pat on the back, but just to kind of tie it in with Farid Basharat. You look at Farid, you look at Javid, they both fight very similarly. And for Farid, did he even face any adversity against Bogoso on Contender Series? Not so much. I mean, and Bogoso's a good fighter. Trust me, he is. You look at this fight and it's more of the same. Javid is such a sneaky fighter when it comes to the Taekwondo. And Tony Gravely has a Taekwondo background as well. And I mean, I threw that one in my notes on that second page. I had both guys are black belts in Taekwondo. Malone Hart with a giant super chat supporting the solo show in honor of the fallen brother, Matt Allen. He'll be back next week, 100%. But a lot of people going with Javid Basharat, and this is where I'm going with this one. 62% of the votes at Fight Night Picks on Instagram going with Javid Basharat. And when you look at Javid, well, who's the better striker of these two guys? It's almost similar to everybody's argument in the chat earlier saying, well, Cameron VanCamp, if he can establish the distance, if he can throw out some of those long-range attacks, make it difficult for Motta to crash in with his boxing, well, then I've got VanCamp. You look at Javid, well, he can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. He can work his own takedowns. He's great with his jiu-jitsu off of the bat, or off the mat, off his back, on the mat, off the bat. When you look at Tony Gravely, I mean, this is a guy that wrestled at App State. I threw it out there for all you football fans. They had a giant win, huge underdog win last weekend. Tony Gravely looking to do more of the same in this matchup, and that really is the commentary on this one. I was surprised to see that Gravely opened at par. Gravely plus 142, Javid Basharat minus 173. So Chad's saying, why do I hate the Basharat brothers? Well, you shouldn't. You definitely shouldn't. I think they're very, very good. Jay, Blue Belt, entered the chat. What else do we have up here? Malone Hart always coming through 100%. Meatball, I'm a big Gravely fan, so I got to back him. Christian, 5955 with BJJ, experience Basharat, let's go. But again, height isn't always the thing. And I think for me, this is another one of those fights. You might call me crazy. You might call it, hey, Craig, you're wasting a pick, this, that, and the other. Javid looked really, really good against Trevin Jones, who's got a big fight coming up. James Lloyd with a big-time super chat. If Sandhagen loses bantamweight, if his father time knocking, I think so, James. I mean, you consider it, and I'll answer your question because that's a giant super chat, and that's really appreciated. So James gets the floor right here. I'll even pick up the microphone, and I'll look right into the camera. James, if you look at it for Sandhagen, you lose to Dillashaw by split. I thought Sandhagen won. You might have thought Sandhagen won. The UFC threw him a bone. Dillashaw goes away to work on that knee, and then all of a sudden Sandhagen gets the interim shot against Petr Yan. And Sandhagen, I saw the graphic floating out there this week as like an argument that how could you throw this kind of volume and lose the fight? And it was one of those MMA, Twitter, MMA, Instagram posts that you just see floating all over the place. We'll throw a graphic together, slap it out there, get a conversation going. Yeah, the volume numbers by Corey Sandhagen were really good in that fight against Petr Yan, but that doesn't tell the story at all. It was Petr Yan's power. It was Petr Yan's ability to float inside of that distance that John Lineker wasn't able to do. And I'll talk about that when we get up to that main event. But when you do look at it, James, and again, I really do appreciate that super chat. I think it is. I think you lose this fight, and then all of a sudden you're into the realm of an Anthony Smith that's fighting between 15 and 5 and all of those contenders, but you're just kind of stuck as a contender. You're not a pretender by any means. Corey Sandhagen is a great bantamweight, but then all of a sudden you have to take fights moving down the rankings like he is this week taking on Song Yadong. So you lose again. It really is tough. But to reel it back into this fight, I got to see Javid beat another good guy, and Tony Gravely's just that. Trevin Jones, a guy that won't fight with a ton of volume in his fights. He'll land some of those big shots. He's good with his jiu-jitsu, but we've seen him struggle mightily in these fights after he ended up getting those first wins in the UFC. So for me, I do like Tony Gravely in this matchup. Matt had Javid Basharat. So again, let me know who you have, but over 60% of you on our Instagram going with Javid Basharat. I don't dislike Javid Basharat by any means, and if he wins this fight, then again, you've hooked me right in, hook, line, and sinker. So I love this fight. I think it's going to be a great one, and we'll move on to the next one. So Mariya Agapova taking on Canadian Gillian Robertson. former training partners at American Top Team proper. Obviously, for Mariya Agapova, well documented. She went to ATT Sunrise. She's looking to mix things up there. And for Gillian Robertson, there were a couple of really astute comments out there this week about Robertson switching up to the goat shed in a positive light. There's a lot of young, hungry up-and-comers training out of that gym. You've got the brothers with Combate. You have a lot of really good grapplers there. So I'd love to see what people are saying there. No, please. Late to the party. Where's Matt? Matt's sick. Turpa helping him out. Matt is sick, so that's where Matt is. But Nate L really wants you to hit up that like button, so I guess you better do it if Nate's saying it. But when you do look at this one, for Gillian Robertson, can she get in range to work the takedowns, and can she utilize her grappling effectively against somebody who can grapple? And for Mariya Agapova, when she's on top, good ground and pound, soften you up, switch over to a position where she can then submit you. And Chad, the UFC dad, is saying Mariya all day. Meatball saying Gillian Moreau showed the game plan to beat Agapova, but will she do it? I mean, Meatball, further to your point, I mean, Tracy Cortez had I think it was over 12 minutes of control time in her fight on Contender Series. 2 judges scored at 30-26. One scored at 29-27. There's a game plan out there to beat Mariya Agapova. You have to wrestle. You have to have good top pressure. You have to be able to stay in that position, whether that's guard or you're switching. You're doing the old Jake Shields, half guard, half guard, guard, switching it all the way around, side control, back to half guard. You can definitely do it that way. But the GOAT Ramis, this is so 50-50. This is where I look at it as, yeah, it could be a 50-50 matchup. I mean, Gillian Robertson, got to get the takedown. She's going to have a high guard, really try and work angles, kind of like Montana De La Rosa, throw a jab out there, throw a straight punch, close that gap, get you down. Whereas Mariya Agapova, I made the joke, she looked like Bubbles, like the Y.I. Otta with her fist all the way up there. But if you do look at it for Agapova, she is a fighter that will strike from the outside. She beat Hannah Cifers very impressively with her striking, kind of bringing it all together. In her other win against Sabina Mazo, whatever you think there, those are both performance of the night bonus wins, so you can't overlook them. It's just in those 2 losses, they have looked very bad, and you consider it. I mean, Marina Moroz was able to have her way in the grappling department. Marina Moroz, more of a volume striker, and in the other fight against Shanna Dobson, you don't really see a lot of Shanna Dobson fights in the UFC these days. So if you do consider it, Mariya Agapova, slight underdog, open the favorite minus 130, plus 126. We have a look for Gillian Robertson, open plus 110, minus 151. And if we have a look at Fight Night picks for the total votes on this one, 50-50. So I see Chad, the UFC dad, saying so many fights on this card are hard to predict. Look at that. 50-50 right there. You've got 105 for Agapova and 104 for Robertson. So very, very close right there. So again, let us know who you have. Christian O, any predictions for Canelo Triple G fight later? Guys, I am going to be completely honest with you, Christian. And I've had a few people hit us up on the Fight Night Picks on Instagram. And on Facebook as well, we had one. And I'm going to get back to both of you there. But I don't have much on it, guys. I didn't watch the Canelo Triple G, the first 2 fights. Follow Canelo for sure. Usyk's definitely my guy in boxing, but I'm not a giant boxing guy. So if Matt was here, he could definitely help us out. I'm going to go see Matt Mays and The Record Company. How high? That's about all the singing you're going to get out of me. So in this matchup, both of us had Gillian Robertson for the wrestling advantage. Clay saying if Robertson gets the takedown round 1, and in round 2, she'll be up 2 rounds, and Agapova will struggle with the takedown. So that could definitely be the issue. So we move into our next fight. Eager to hear your thoughts on this one, because everybody likes Daniel Zellhuber, but when you do consider Trey Ogden, I know he had to have the hoop around him when he did weigh in. I thought he looked massive, especially even with the hoop. So he weighs in at 156, taking on Zellhuber, a very, very tall, rangy type of striker. These guys are both very big lightweights in the grand scheme of things. And if you look at Trey Ogden's game, he does have decent striking. He does have a pretty good offensive wrestling game. He does have a very good offensive grappling game when he's on the mat. So if you consider that with the fact that Daniel Zellhuber struggled a fair bit with the takedowns, especially on the come up before Contender Series, maybe that's a reason to pick Trey Ogden. This is another one of those ones that can be very difficult. And cool banana boy Zellhuber with the lack of defense, but supposed to have a good chin. If you watch Zellhuber's last fight against Daniel Almeida, who ended up looking really good in his UFC debut, Dana White said, listen, I loved Almeida, love what he brought in that fight. It was a really hardcore fight. And if he takes another one, or maybe down the road, we'll sign Almeida. But tonight, Zellhuber is the big winner, and we're going to go with him. If you look at it for Zellhuber, he got hit hard in that first round. Almeida looked great, and Zellhuber was able to just pick up the pieces and have a great second round and a great third round. I look at Daniel Zellhuber, again, I mentioned this at the start of the week, a lot like Ignacio Bahamondes, both with, kickboxing backgrounds, Muay Thai background, and if you consider it for Zellhuber, very tall, very long, very rangy for this division, and he throws a lot of flashy stuff, and Bahamondes with a spin kick over a guy in Roosevelt Roberts, that's amazing. Daniel Zellhuber, he throws question mark kicks, the name of this show, so I do look at this as, okay, Zellhuber's a better, flashier striker, and I do like Zellhuber ever so slightly in this one, but this is a really fun fight, and if you do consider it, Zellhuber opened a minus 240 favorite, minus 383 right now, Ogden opened plus 200, plus 299 or thereabouts, so again, a big underdog is Trey Ogden, and 77% of the fans have Zellhuber to get the win, so I think this is going to be a really fun fight. I think for Ogden, he just took on a really weird stylistic matchup his last time out against Jordan Levitt, who only threw leg kicks, and didn't really throw any of his punches. And I know that this sounds really rudimentary, but all he did was throw those kicks. And you had, Ogden attempting takedowns. He was getting reversed and bucked off in a couple of spots, but I mean, Ogden's got a pretty good shot. As that big of an underdog, maybe you want to go with him. I have Zellhuber here, and so did Matt. But it is an interesting fight at lightweight. And considering, I mean, this is go time for Trey Ogden, the guy out of Glory MMA and Fitness. He's a coach there. For Zellhuber, still very young at 23. Time to mature and grow with the company. I mean, we've had a lot of fighters come in around 21, 22, 23. The Poiriers, the Holloways, and find their way. Maybe Zellhuber, is he in that pantheon? Maybe not necessarily yet, but he's coming in at a good age, especially for the sport. So we look at our next fight. Loma Lookboonmee taking on Denise Gomes. If you consider it, Gomes just fought a few weeks ago on Dana White's Contender Series. Maybe you saw the preview that we had on our channel. Week 9 coming right up. We got a big time one out there scheduled for Monday. Hopefully that's not a solo show with just me, but we'll see how it plays out. But when you do look at this one, listen, a couple of classically trained Muay Thai artists. And for Kavoth MMA, my tripper is this show earlier than usual. Fights don't start for another 2.5 hours. When I went to make the show, I don't know. It said it was supposed to start at 5 o'clock our time here Atlantic, so that would have been 4 o'clock Eastern. So I don't know. You tell me, pal. I don't know. I think we were 2 hours before. But we'll go with this one, Matt. Look at that. I'm making the mistakes. He's not here. Talking to him as if he was. Gomes is a very good Muay Thai striker, and in her fight on Contender Series, she was taking on Rayani Amanda, traditionally a grappler, so it was a clash of styles. And I see Prince Vegeta's son saying, Denise looked pissed at the weigh-ins. Consider this too. This fight was made right after Gomes won on Contender Series. Loma was already originally scheduled to be taking on Diana Belbizia. She's 4-2 is Loma with the promotion, but she's taken on a wild level of competition. It's been a roller coaster. Starts with Alexandra Albu, then it's Angela Hill, who was on her run at that point. Beats Jinyu Fry and looked really good. Beats Sam Hughes and looks really good. And then she loses to Lupita Godinez, so finally that takedown caused her some issues there. But for Gomes, she's not really a takedown artist. She's out of PRVT, the gym with Carol Hossa, with, of course, kind of their big-time fighter is Jessica Andrade. When I do look at this one, I like Loma with the Muay Thai. Now, having said that, Angela Hill said, I'm going to beat Loma with my Muay Thai, which is kind of wild, and then she was able to actually go out and do it. So, a lot of fun there. Loma open minus 275, minus 215 right now. Gomes open plus 235, plus 176. And I know, again, like I said, both of us had Loma at the start of the week. 66% of the fans at Fight Night Picks have Loma to get the win as well. The Mummy Cat saying, if Aspen Ladd ever makes weight again, yeah, poor old Aspen Ladd. I won't even talk. I won't talk about that fight all that much because, of course, that one's canceled. But Ladd versus Sarah McMahon, you feel good about taking like a plus 135 underdog at the start of the week in Sarah McMahon, and then Ladd misses weight, and you think, geez, that one's gonna work out, and then the fight is canceled. And to the Mummy Cat's credit, if they ever come to Harvest, that'd be wild. But I was wearing my Mummy Cat's hoodie there this morning, so shouts to the Mummy Cat. Some great tunes. I wore it when I was buying landscape products this morning. It's a fun life that I live, taking vacation. So in this fight, going with Lookboonmee, and Troy saying Gomes will win. She very well could. The thing that I really like out of this one, though, just to consider this, Troy, is I like the volume out of Loma a little bit more than I do at a Gomes. But Gomes, fresher fighter, younger fighter, having just fought, maybe she can pull out the win. We move into the next fight. Trevin Giles fought, 17 times between light heavyweight and middleweight, primarily middleweight, but he debuted at 205 in the UFC against James Boknovic, a guy whose name I'm going to bring up a little bit later on when I talk about the Tanner Boser fight against Rodrigo Nascimento. But in this fight, Trevin Giles, last time out, weighs in 170.5, takes on Michael Morales. Michael Morales is all the hotness out of Latin America. This guy can grapple, but you don't necessarily see it. This guy can punch. He is very good, and he comes out of Entram Gym. Look good. When you look at it for Giles, though, I mean, my God, has this guy taken on, like, I know your favorite comedians, they overuse the term, and I'm going to use it. They say a murderer's row. When you look at Trevin Giles' Tapology page and you consider the fights that he had, we used to talk about him all the time when he was coming into the UFC, but let's consider the wins that he had to come into the UFC. He was 4-0. He beat Brennan Allen by submission. He submits Ike Villanueva when Trevin's 7-0. He beats Ryan Spann by split decision to win the LFA belt. He beats James Boknovic, Braga Neto by finish, James Krause, Bavon Lewis, Roman Dolidze. Now, the James Krause fight was very, very controversial, and a lot of people thought that James Krause won. But then Trevin comes back and beats Roman Dolidze and just pumping out that power jab, stepping heavy on the lead leg, popping that jab out there, popping Roman's face back. And that smile in the first round kind of started to go away as the fight went on. When I look at it just from that perspective, Trevin should win, right? But you get knocked out by Dricus du Plessis in a fight that you're winning. You get knocked out by Michael Morales when Trevin, don't forget about this. Trevin was having success against Michael Morales. He sent him flying back into the cage. They didn't count it as a knockdown, but he sent him like feet or hands had to plant on the mat to pop himself back up. You just look at this one and, okay, Trevin's shredded. He's on the last fight of his deal. He's on a 2-fight finish streak by losing. You'd think he's got to win. I mean, but don't forget this either. Louis Cosce was a minus 600 favorite in his last fight against Sasha Plotnikov and had him dead to rights in the first round. And then round 2 and round 3, when he didn't finish him in the first round, he had gassed and he wasn't able to get it. I think back to my guy that I talk about all the time, Leonardo Santos. Look at his fight against Clay Guida. Emptied the tank round 1, round 2, round 3, couldn't get it done. Who else was it? Rafa Garcia when he took on Chris Grutzmacher. Same thing. First round, empty the tank. Round 2, round 3, couldn't get it done. Tried to wrestle, wasn't able to do it. So I do look at this one for Trevin Giles. Could he get finished in the first round by Cosce? Sure. Could he get finished in the second round? Sure. That could possibly happen. I still do take Trevin Giles based on the strength of schedule. And maybe that's a poor argument. But the other thing that I'll add into it, Kenny Williams saying, "What up, Craig?" Kenny, I appreciate you. But when I do look at this one, for Giles, I like the volume, I like the jab, I like the wrestling. And for Cosce, had his shoulders cleaned up. He's training at a syndicate. He's revamped things too. So don't forget about the second half of the equation. But you do consider the odds when you factor everything together. Giles open minus 200, minus 221. Cosce open plus 170, plus 179. In it to spin it, saying where the F is Matt. Matt's sick. Matt is sick. It's a sick day for Matt. 67% of the fans taking Giles. We both had Giles. I think it'll be an interesting matchup. And if Cosce gets the win here, wow, that really does open a lot of doors. You get to not necessarily rest on the laurels of Trevin Giles, but you can really prop yourself up that way. So a good win if he's able to get it. Now we go into our next fight. Now we have this on the fight of the night. Damon Jackson taking on Pat Sabatini. I'm going to have a sip. You tell me who you've got in this one, because these two guys are very, very good grapplers. And for Damon Jackson, I mean, had that 0-1-1 with a no contest start to his UFC tenure, 7 years ago? 6, 7, 8 years ago? And then he, of course, has lost to Mavlid Haibulea. But, man, he went on an absolute run outside of the UFC. And he's 4-1 since he's been back. So a great run for Jackson. And Sabatini's undefeated in the UFC. What could you ask for? It's hard to ask for any more. So, Michigonian, appreciate you stepping up and still putting on question mark kicks. Michigonian, I'll be honest with you, it's question mark kicks. I live for the QMK, and then I'm going out for the concerts later on today. A lot of great concerts, and then tomorrow I'll tune in for whatever bits of this show that I miss, whatever bits of Sandhagen song. But Pat Sabatini, such a powerful grappler. Clay saying Jackson not confident, but he's probably the best fighter Sabatini will have ever fought. Clay, couldn't agree with you more. That was a big point for me at the start of the week. Michigonian tossing that L word around for Sabatini. I wouldn't go that way. Prince Vegeta-san saying Jackson by a huge upset. the odds are too close for that. I mean, he opened plus 190, plus 163. Sabatini opened minus 225, minus 197 right now. I said at the start of the week, like, I was right on the fence 50-50 on this one, and I still am on Saturday. Jackson is, again, NAIA All-American. He has decent wrestling. His wrestling takedowns aren't the same as Pat Sabatini's at all. Sabatini's going to rush in, get his arms around, try and lock that double leg, really try and pressure you down to the mat, and really just use force of will and a good gas tank, because we've seen him last all 3 rounds and grapple. Whereas Damon Jackson is going to continue to go body lock or tricky, just odd angle takedowns. Luis Rodriguez, continued love for the Fight Night community. It really is the best one out there. You folks are really pulling through on a Saturday early too. So thank you for hanging out, whether it's Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon for you, or if it's Saturday night and you're across the pond. And all of the super chats are really appreciated. And if you can't super chat, a like really does go a long way, especially where we're moving into a week where next weekend there's no UFC. We have Dana White's Contender Series, so if you want to get your fix of Fight Night picks, we'll have a live show for the Contender Series, most likely on Monday night. But yeah, a lot of fun right there. I do think Jackson can definitely get it done. A lot of people are propping him up on experience and the big names and so on and so forth, but I really do. I still have Sabatini here. 71% of the fans Fight Night picks have Sabatini. The one thing I'll say, if you really do like Damon Jackson, one thing that you could prop your argument up on, and I see Turpa saying, what can Jackson do with the stand-up wise? I'm wondering. Sabatini's got the body kick. Sabatini's got the leg kick. Sabatini doesn't really have the crisp it. Like, he doesn't throw a lot of boxing combinations. It's a lot of punch, reset, a lot of looping stuff, big shots. Damon Jackson, a lot more on straight shots, but he doesn't really throw a lot of volume either. These guys are specialists to the nth degree in this featherweight division, which can get you far. It really can. But you look at both of these guys, ample opportunity in this one. Again, I still like Sabatini. You let me know who you have. Both of us had Sabatini in this matchup. And yeah, it'll be an interesting fight for sure. And then we get into a fight where Matt and I kind of deviate from the crowd, where we both went with Marc-Andre Barriault at the start of the week, and people are saying, like, geez, you're crazy. Anthony Hernandez got this one locked up. He's got it in the bag. He beat your guy, Rodolfo Vieira. And he did. I mean, that one was, like, you think about it. When did Anthony Hernandez beat Vieira? I mean, that was a studio ago for us, but in terms of years and months and so on, it was a year and a half ago that he was able to get that win. He beat Josh Fremd 5 months ago. And he looked really good in that fight. He really did. Like, he was able to close the distance early, land big shots that were able to kind of make Fremd think, and he took him down at will. Now, depending on what you make of Josh Fremd, he made it up near the top of the LFA leaderboard, but he wasn't able to get it done, so he's no Trevin Giles in this middleweight division. But Hernandez won that belt over with LFA. So you do look at this one, and I mean, Hernandez has all those attributes. His gas tank's pretty good. I'd say it's pretty good. I'd say Barrios is better, but I'd say Hernandez has a good gas tank. His takedowns are great. His jiu-jitsu is nasty. He can get caught coming in. I mean, you saw that against Kevin Holland, eating that knee up the middle. You saw it against Muluko Perez, where he did get submitted. That one's true. But for me, and this is going to sound really cheesy, and if I get it wrong, I get it wrong, but what I do like out of Marc-Andre Barriault, closes the distance, boxes his way into the clinch. He throws good knees himself. He throws good uppercuts. He can really just wear on you with his size. Former 205 and 185-pound champ with TKO. I think training with Killcliff FC really does help him in a lot of these matchups, especially against these marquee middleweights as you make your way up. There's so many different middleweights that train out of Killcliff, formerly Sanford. Prince Vegeta-san, wow, who has the better grappling? Fluffy has the better grappling. When it comes to his wrestling, takedown defense I like out of Barriault because in the fights where he's taken down, typically he's able to pop back up. And Chad, the UFC dad, saying Fluffy got better grappling. D-Rod to 1. Hernandez finna smash. This is just one where I'm going with the underdog in Barriault. I like what I've seen. I like the activity. Didn't love how he got knocked out by Chidi and Joe Kawani and then decided, like, 2.5 months later, I'm going to go out and fight Jordan Wright. And listen, tee-hee, snicker. Jordan Wright's got a fight that just got booked in the UFC. But for Barriault, he looked really good. And he went into that fight with, like, reckless abandon. Didn't really care about getting the chin checked. And he looked amazing in that one. So, going to go with the underdog in Barriault in the matchup. And you got to go with few on these cards. And Barriault is a pretty sizable one. Open plus 130, plus 174. And that line's jumped quite a bit this week. Hernandez open minus 150. He's at a minus 214. Prince Vegeta, you're with me. You don't. Chad, the UFC dad, saying they don't actually pick a lot of Canadians, LOL. No, that's true. But this is the week where we actually do. I think we picked all 3 Canadians in this one. Last week, Let me think. Matt had Lioness. I had Weeks. I thought Weeks won, but we don't have to argue about it. Then neither one of us had Anheliger to beat Alatang Lee. And then at the start of the week, I had Hakeem Dawodu, and Matt did too, to beat Arosa. But that Dawodu weight miss on question mark kicks, I switched the pick over to Arosa. So in this fight, 63% of the fans with Fight Night picks going with Hernandez, 37% going with Marc-André Barriault, and I'm just the contrarian, but Clay went with Hernandez. Think he wins by decision. Zoned up with a lot of dots, so they do. Well, if I just said we don't normally take them, that one's tough. Scotty B, old Scott B with the super chat. What do you love? What you guys do? How confident are you on Zellhuber? Hoping Ogden doesn't wrestle his way to a win. Probably wouldn't say that's the most confident pick on the card, Scott. If, I know I mentioned that earlier, but the reason why I look at Zellhuber opening minus 240, he's minus 383 right now. He's the fourth biggest mover and shaker on this card, 37% on best fight odds. In terms of like big favorites, maybe you like Pfeiffer more than you like Zellhuber, but it's just Zellhuber used to struggle with the takedown. How good is his takedown defense now? I don't necessarily know. It hasn't really been tested in his last number of fights. And again, I mentioned this at the start of the week, Scott. You watch his fight with, it was Icon, where they're fighting in a ring, like with the actual boxing ring. Opponent goes for the takedown. Zellhuber bounces. Oh, that's not a ring, by the way. That's a shelf. Bounces off the ring and then lands on top of his opponent. And he's able to utilize that quite well as I watch myself on the replay on YouTube hit my head. And that did hurt. But yeah, maybe you want to go that way. But for me, Zellhuber, maybe not the one. And in this one, again, both of us with Barriault. So we move into our next fight. Tanner Boser's taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. And I brought up a couple of different things to kind of help us bob and weave through this fight. You guys are doing a great job out there in the chat, by the way. Really helping me out. 400 tuning in to an afternoon show question mark kick solo. Thank you so much. The super chats have been on fire. The comment sections have been great. So keep that one going. I really do like that. And Scott saying thanks, brother. Scott, a tip of the cap to you. So we do look at this one. Another 100, Craig will go crazy, knock everything off the shelves. I hope not. I hope not, man. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff on that shelf. There's fun stuff that you can't see. Like here, Matt hates it when I'm prop comic Craig. I have a Stipe Miocic bobblehead where he's got a baseball jersey and a fire hose. That one's fun, right? You gotta every now and again just add stuff to your collection out there. But when it does come to this fight, for Tanner Boser, we got to go through and do a little bit of math here because you guys might not notice it on the screen, but we always update the question mark kicks weigh-in totals, and I think that's really important. You'll see that in the Pfeiffer-Amdovsky fight, but we're just going to focus on Tanner Boser in the UFC. Takes on Daniel Spitz, his UFC debut, weighs 247.5. His next fight against Cyril Gane, 246. His next fight against Felipe Lins, 235. He knocks him out. His next fight against Pessoa, 235. He knocks him out. His fight against Arlovsky, 232.5. He loses by decision. A lot of people thought Boser won. He loses to Ilir Latifi by split, 242. Beats Vincent Prue. He weighs 240. This week weighs 229 for a heavyweight. For a heavyweight, that's crazy. You don't see that very often. And when I went back into my memory bank and thought of like really, really, slim heavyweights, I thought of this fight. Maybe you folks saw it, but way back at Bellator 198, Fedor versus Frank Mir. Robert Morrow, a guy that's fought pretty well all your favorite heavyweights, if you go through his record, fought Adam Mashevsky. And Mashevsky was favored to win that fight. The Tapology votes, 83% had Mashevsky to win. Mashevsky weighed 250.5 and Robert Morrow weighed 214. And Morrow was able to get the decision win when his bigger opponent gassed after the first round. I look at this fight as, and I know, we joked about it. Matt said, I don't see a way that Christakis beats Nascimento. That's Nascimento's only loss. Nascimento's a really good heavyweight that's been off for a no contest that he didn't deserve and a suspension he didn't deserve. He got popped for Ritalinic acid that he had a prescription for and he'd be taking the whole time. And USADA said, your knockout win over Alain Badeau doesn't count anymore. We're going to consider that as a no contest. And Bob's our uncle, and now we're here. So Nascimento can power punch himself in. He is a submission artist. I know his win in the UFC that he does have, and it's been a while, but the fight against Badeau and then the win over Dontel Mays, they've been a while. But this guy is very, very good. And for Tanner Boser, we talked about it at the start of the week, he's well-rounded. I'll say to that, and I'll append it, His takedown defense has been to his downfall in his MMA career. He's usually able to pop back up to his feet, but being the lighter guy against such a heavy guy, that can pose you issues if Nascimento is able to get in. What I do like in this fight is I do like Tanner Bozer's volume. That's a giant thing. And when his opponents try and close that range, you saw that against Felipe Lins, pop, cracked him, and then ends up getting the finish. So I do like Bozer in this fight with the volume. I don't love the layoff. You beat OSP and you look amazing. That's one of the biggest wins of your career, especially in the UFC for Bozer, because you consider the other wins, Pizzoa, Lins, former millionaire at the PFL. That win over OSP holds water. OSP's former title challenger, UFC 197. But you look at this one, Bozer open minus 220, he's minus 178. Nascimento open plus 185 is plus 147. I'm pretty sure MMA Lock of the Night threw out a graphic out there. He's got Nascimento this week, and I wouldn't fault anybody that did, so I'm going to hit you guys up in the comments section. Kurtar is saying if Nascimento gets one takedown, he wins the round. That could happen. Connor Kennelly? I apologize for your last name, Connor. Tony Batista. Blue Jays great. Miguel Batista was a Blue Jays great, and Jose Bautista was too. Prince Vegeta, Bozer by Never Quit Attitude. Austin saying Tanner, the dull Bozer. So let me know who you have in this one. I'll let you know what the Fight Night Picks fans are saying. On Instagram, 72% of them have Bozer to get the win. I have Bozer based on the volume numbers, based on the strike. I think his strike is a little bit better than Nascimento, but again, Nascimento looked bad in the first round against Bado, who threw the kitchen sink at him, which I assume Bozer will. But in the second round, he was able to rally and look really good. And that win should count on his record. So maybe if he wins this fight, he gets on the mic, reinstitute that no contest that's on my record as a win, because I think he really does deserve it. So we'll throw it on into our next fight. Joe Pyfer taking on Alan Amedovski. And as I said in the last fight, we update these weigh-ins. And Alan Amedovski took his trunks off and had that hoop around him, and he still weighed 186.5 pounds. And that's bad. And he didn't really know how to put his hands up on his shoulders when you weigh in, when you have the towel around you. So for Amedovski, it is tough. If you do look at it for Amedovski, very much a power puncher. Zach G met Tanner at Cross Iron Mills in Calgary. Really nice guy. Excited to watch him. Thanks as always, Craig. Zach G, I was at the Cross Iron Mills in Calgary. What are we today? The 17th? I was there a month ago. Hit up your Under Armour store. I went to your Tommy Bahama store, but the shirts were way too expensive. They were no sheepdog shirts, I'll tell you that much. And then I went to that mini mall that's across from the Cross Insurance Mills, and that was a cool experience. They had some neat stuff in there. I'm surprised there's not more stores. If you're in the Calgary area, hopefully you catch my drift. If not, Zach G just had fun with the super chat. So Zach G, I hope you enjoyed story time, and thank you for the super chat. But yeah, when we come into our next fight, Pyfer versus Amedovski. Amedovski throws, and I talked about Nascimento throwing the kitchen sink. Amedovski throws those hammers, and Joe Pyfer can really, really grapple. And that is the thing that, a lot of people like, but they might not focus in on. If you just watch Joe Pyfer in his fight against Ozzy Diaz in Contender Series, well, all he did was strike with Diaz, and he looked really good against a guy who's a very technical striker and can definitely get it done. So if you do consider it in this one, I do like Joe Pyfer based on that grappling X factor. It's just, do we get to see that out of the Daniel Gracie guy, or does he get does he try and punch his ticket by punching the clock very quickly and punching out Alan Amedovski? I'll see myself out. I sound like Jeff Merrick doing the show by myself, just throwing out those short little ones for Elliot Friedman. Just my 2 cents in. Calgary seems like a cool place. Oh man, that's really cool. It really is. There's so much to do in Calgary. And somebody from Calgary might be able to help me out. I went to your barbecue whiskey bar that was kind of off of downtown, and it was awesome, man. The food was great. They did it by the half pound. I had some brisket and some smoked turkey, and it was great. Joe Pyfer, open minus 300, minus 532. Amedovski, open plus 250, plus 388. And if I have a look at Fight Night Picks, the total votes on this one, 86% have Pyfer to get the win. So let me know who you have in this one. John Doe saying, I wish they gave Joe Pyfer Joseph Holmes. Holmes has a fight booked, if I'm not mistaken. And Holmes looked really good against Amedovski. Like, he rocked him, dropped him, got his back, and then choked him out with a no-hook rear naked choke. Something you don't see very often. Like, AJ Dobson's a big guy that does that. Can Allen wrestle? Maybe. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it against Joe Pyfer in this one. If he does, I'll be a monkey's uncle. How about that one? Andre Fili taking on Bill Algeo, one of the best fights on the weekend. And this is the one that we just agreed on this pick. This is also one of the 2 fights on this card where people are split. Look at that. I'll put my phone up there. 50-50. 50-50 on this one. 107 Algeo votes to 106. So listen, it's that close in our Instagram. But man, these 2 guys are very, very close when it comes to their overall fighting abilities. And for Bill Algeo, I mean, the memes, and they're funny, but they're not that funny. Like Herbert Burns went so hard for those submissions. I'll break it down like this. Herbert Burns was like a dog and a bone in the first round for the sub against Bill Algeo. In the second round, he tried, but he couldn't. He just completely tuckered himself out, and then that was it. I can't remember the last time I saw somebody, just give out due to exhaustion. The body gave out in that fight, and Bill Algeo got a performance bonus, which really kind of stumped me because I guess he was just so slippery with his defensive abilities on the mat, kind of. If you want to play MMA math here, Algeo was able to withstand the storm of Joanderson Brito, where Fili wasn't able to, and Fili got finished in his last time out. But let me know who you have in this one, because I see Zach G again saying, having a tough time with this fight, such a close one to call. Orlando saying, Fili all damn day, just my 2 cents, closing my eyes and picking Fili. Hot dogs, Bob's your uncle. You're a monkey's uncle. Which is it, Craig? I don't know. My uncle's name is Darren. I have an Uncle Darren and Uncle Patrick, and Darren has a janky back, but you watch that guy run with a football like in his 40s when we were kids. You just give him a football out there because you play with the neighborhood kids and you'd be like, Darren, come on. Oh, no, my back hurts. Matt would love this. Oh, no, my back hurts. You give him the ball, he's like Emmitt Smith. He would just book it in a straight line. He was way too fast for everybody else. The grappler, whereas Matt, he's sick. But when it does come to this one, I like Algeo with the trickiness on the feet. This guy throws insane volume when it comes to his striking, and I like Bill Algeo with that. Now, Andre Fili, and Matt touched on this main event and for this fight, you look at these guys in a vacuum. Fili can mix it up with the wrestling. Team Alpha Male for so very long. He is such a good striker on the outside. Maybe you want to go with Fili. Austin saying, I think I got Fili, just a clash of styles. I think this is one that everybody's going to enjoy to watch. And Aaron is saying, I think Fili will wrestle him. Algeo bigger upside. Trent hit up the super chat. Trent, love the content. Over under 4.5 rounds for the Sandhagen fight. Also thinking parlaying Pfeiffer with Zellhuber moneyline. I'm not that convinced on Zellhuber, like minus 450, minus 500. So that should answer the second part. The first part, Trent, I hope the comment section can help you out, because I know that's where it's kind of baked in, is over under 4.5 rounds, fight go the distance, fight not go the distance. I think that's where the value is. So if somebody can really help him out there, that would be appreciated. I don't have a ton on that one, Trent. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You hit me up with a $4.99 super chat. Ask me another question and I'll answer it. How about that? I hope that helps you out a little bit. But in this one, I like Algeo. Matt likes that wrestling X factor of Fili in the matchup. And if we do have a look at the odds really quickly, Algeo is a slight underdog. Open minus 160, plus 103 right now. Andre Fili open plus 140, minus 126. So that is the way she goes. Paul is saying if Algeo had any power, I'd go with him, but I just can't. I just can't. Evan, what's up from Detroit? I've been a huge fan of Song for years, but it's hard to see him beating Sandhagen. It could. Austin Maliki saying, I think Pat Sabatini gets it done by decision. It could happen. Fili's focused on his ban on YouTube. Oh, the guy's got a ban. And Clay's helping out with Trent's comments, so that's much appreciated. If you see Trent pop up, like I said, I'll try and help him once more. We get to our co-main event. Oh boy, we were split on this one too. Matt has Chidi Njokuani. It's the speed, it's the power of the shots, and I have Gregory Rodriguez. Can I lay out my case? We're here, we're hanging out, we're having fun. Let us know who you have here. I'll get into the Instagram votes on this one. 64% have Njokuani, 36% have Rodriguez. People are finally on Chidi Njokuani. And somebody, and we're really having a conversation here. People are really picking up on the fact that we've been talking about Chidi Njokuani for a long damn time, because there was a comment out there going way back into our videos. We had a video on Rafael Carvalho against Chidi Njokuani for Bellator. We've been talking about Chidi for a long time. It's just now finally people are on, the side of, man, this Chidi Njokuani guy is pretty damn good. Yeah, he is. Like, he struggled against some guys at 170. He struggled against a former champ with Bellator, but You consider that Carvalho loss. That was 3 years ago. Since then, beats Christian Torres with LFA. Wins on Contender Series over Mario Souza. Win over Marc-Andre Barrio. Win over Disco Todorovic. Disco is the one that's fighting Jordan right now. It just kind of jogged my memory. But now all of a sudden, yeah, Chidi Njokuani, like, people are like, well, he should beat Disco, but Disco hits hard. Well, he's not going to beat Marc-Andre Barrio, and I had him to beat Marc-Andre, and I had him to beat Disco, but I don't have him to win in this fight. And the reason why is because I think this could be the fight that Gregory's grappling finally shows up. And I know that's such a tough thing to try and go with, but when I do look at it, I mean, Gregory, so good with his judo, so good with his takedowns when he employs them. His ground and pound's very good. We just don't see it very often. And his striking, he does have that high guard, but he can get hit by bigger shots by power guys who have speed like Chidi Njokuani. So I understand both the picks. I think both Matt and I do, and hopefully you do as well. But when we do look at the odds here, slight favorite again, just like the last fight. Gregory Rodriguez open plus 125, went down to a minus 115, plus 108 right now. Chidi open minus 145, went up to a minus 107, minus 133 right now. So Chidi's the favorite. Prince Vegeta's son has Chidi. Jangle saying fight of the night. We've got Joshi saying Rodriguez, great fighter, kind of an idiot, bro. He's going to lock box. I mean, it could happen. Adam Riley, QMK parlay this week. I retired it. It's not a part of my game. It gives me great anxiety before the show. And then when it hits, you feel great. But if it misses, you feel like a bag of mulch like I had to buy this morning. You don't feel that good. So that is the way to go. Dead Dylan. Apparently Dead Dylan, I suck according to Dead Dylan. So I don't know, man. Dylan, you're tuning in. I'm sorry, pal. You're tuning in. But in this fight, I have Rodriguez. Matt has Njokuani. And to Dylan's point, I mean, we're having the best year we've ever had. But I don't know, guy. We get into our main event. You want to pump it up? You want to get excited again? Corey Sandhagen's taking on Song Yadong. And I know everybody out there in that chat is so excited about this fight. Because at 135 pounds, let's stack it up. Let's have a little bit of fun. You guys want to talk 135? I mean, listen. Marlon Vera is on fire. He's free game. He doesn't have a fight yet. Merab Dvalishvili just beat Jose Aldo. Free game. Doesn't have a fight booked. Jose Aldo did just lose. He doesn't have a fight booked. But when you do look at this one overall, guys, these guys have a little bit of a foot in the door. Now, Petr Yan's got to take on Sean O'Malley. What does that mean for the division? Aljamain Sterling's fighting at the end of October against TJ Dillashaw. And Rob Font's out there. Doesn't have a fight. Dominic Cruz doesn't have a fight. Ricky Simone, I think people... Knock, knock, knock. I think people finally realize how good Ricky Simone is after he beats Jack Shore. But when you do look at this one, guys, this fight holds a lot of relevance in this division. So when you do consider the greatest bantamweights that are out there right now, these two guys definitely hold the water. You look at the odds in this one. Sandhagen is favored by a fair bit. Open minus 160, minus 207. Song Yadong opened plus 140, plus 171 right now. It is an interesting one all over the way. So let me know who you have in the comments, because we have a look right here in that poll that's here on YouTube. 70% have Sandhagen to win to the 30% that have Song Yadong. The reason why I like Corey Sandhagen in the matchup is I've seen him fight smaller power punchers and have some success. Now, the John Lineker fight was very close. And John Lineker was a power puncher that could close that gap, and Sandhagen was doing his bob and his weave and his in and his out, mixing in his kicks and all of that. And if you do look at his last fight against Petr Yan, his volume numbers were very good. We talked about that at the very start of the show. A lot of those MMA websites with the graphics were putting that out there, but how could Corey Sandhagen lose? You saw it. Corey Sandhagen had a very, very good... Don't give Dead Dylan a hard time. You look at it, and Sandhagen was able to have really good volume, but he did struggle with some of that power. So in this matchup, you could very much like Song Yadong in this fight, and I'm not going to give you a hard time at all over there in that comment section. Let me know who you have in this one. You're right, you're wrong until we get the final result on Saturday night. But I know both of us had Sandhagen in this matchup because, again, like the volume, like the movement. Clay's saying the movement, the durability, the volume, and what I expect to be is a better gas tank. We haven't seen Song Yadong in this 5-round element just yet, but now we get that opportunity. Coming out of Team Alpha Male, you have to think defensive wrestling is going to be great, or at least competent. And when you look at it for Sandhagen, I mean, he does have good grappling. I touched on it in the video. You know, some of the guys that he's trained with in the past and maybe he works that in. Matt doesn't think he's going to work it in. I think he might, but I think it's really going to be a fun one. Pablo is saying Song plus 170. Orlando's saying Song gets the win. Kurtar, top 5 questions asked by D-Rod. Austin saying is Song quicker than Jan? Possibly. Prince Vegeta-san, you're sorry. That's okay. You can make fun of me in the comments. That's fine too. TTV UFC Guru, Song is still so young. This is a learning experience for sure. And Jesse Scott saying, what happened to Matt? Matt is sick. Matt is sick. Los Non saying, should go the distance. Got him that way. And just my 2 cents, Song has some of the attributes that have given Corey trouble. He does, because his boxing combinations are so great. The only thing that Song Yadong doesn't really do a lot in his fights, and I'm minimizing all those prelims so we can get back into it and stack the deck again. The only thing that Song Yadong doesn't do all that much, he doesn't throw a lot of kicks. He'll throw 10 or less in the first round and then utilize them less as the fight goes on. Now, that's in fights where he gets finishes, so take that for what it's worth, but that's also in fights that have gone decision too. So it could be something that maybe he throws a little bit more output that way in his fights. Maybe that is what we'll get out of Song Yadong. That would be very interesting. But before I stack the deck one more time, as we get those comments flooding in, it's really appreciated because, listen, I mean, almost 500 tuning in right now, and that's great. For an afternoon show, that's really appreciated that you take the time to hang out with me. Matt's sick this week. Definitely be back for the next show. And don't forget, too, you have a big-time card coming up. Mackenzie Dern versus Yan Xiaonan in the main event, October 1st. So that's going to be in a ways, October 1st. So tune in for that one. And Contender Series, that stuff's coming up on Monday. So I'm thrown off by the comments there. Just my 2 cents saying Corey by decision for me. And Prince Vegeta-san talking about that confidence. You got to be confident. Los Nan did a great solo job, Craig. I appreciate that, Los Nan. This is how all the Fight Night Pick shows used to work out. It used to be just me in the microphone talking to nobody, doing a podcast on our website. Website's still a thing, fightnightpicks.com, and all that fun stuff. We still have podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But what we always do, we flip the deck one more time. Christian, I admire your patience in answering the same questions over again about Matt. Hey, you gotta do what you can. We've got Song very live, and Daniel saying Matt is a hero. He's a hero for many. Chad, the UFC dad, hit that like for Matty boy. You gotta. First fight on the card. All the fans have Cameron VanCamp. I have Nikolas Motta, but you Cameron VanCamp people, I can definitely see that path. This is one of those ones on this card. I could definitely side with the underdog. It's just I like the power and the speed out of Nikolas Motta, but I didn't see it in his last fight. And if I don't see it in this fight, that's not good. Love that long range out of Cameron VanCamp. Love those looping, not looping. I guess I should switch it up. Those odd angle punches that he throws and those great kicks to the body. If he can get his distance going really quick, he can be a giant problem for Motta. And Cameron VanCamp can also grapple quite well. So maybe you do like VanCamp in this one. I like Nikolas Motta and Chad the UFC dad. What a radio voice. You're saying I don't have a face for TV? Is that what it is? Tony Gravely, Javid Basharat. We're split on the pick. Matt has Javid. I have Tony Gravely. Another one, really fun fight, and this could be a great one. Bantamweight division, best in the sport, maybe? I mean, it is murderer's row, as we were saying up at the top, especially with your main event, but all the fights that are booked up there. There's so many great fighters. I have Gravely with that wrestling edge, but if Javid can stuff the takedown, be busy with his jiu-jitsu off his back, and implement his own distance game and his volume shots, Javid can definitely get the win here. So you might like Javid. I like Javid and Farid for what they are. But, yeah, I think this is going to be a fun one. I have Gravely. Matt has Basharat. Next fight, both of us with Gillian Robertson to get it done. But, hey, don't forget about Agapova. Nowadays, everybody want to talk like they got something to say. But nothing comes out when they look at those performance bonuses. Everybody want to act like they forgot about Agapova. Tell her I sang that one someday. Trey Ogden taking on Daniel Zellhuber. I have Zellhuber, the younger fighter. But, again, Ogden could get it done with that great offensive wrestling game that he has, and his striking's not too shabby. It's just I like Zellhuber striking that much more. So for me, I do like Zellhuber, but you could have Ogden in this one, and I don't like where Ogden's at in terms of the odds. Loma Lookboonmee taking on Denise Gomes. I like Lookboonmee in this one, both Muay Thai artists. I'll side with Lookboonmee here. If you want to make an example or go with Denise Gomes in the comment section, please do so. Let's see, who else? We got Ogden is actually sneaky good, but Zellhuber is too long. Zellhuber by Chad Jawline. He does have quite the jawline. Trevin, Giles, Lewis, Cosce. Both of us with Giles in this one at 170 pounds. Damon Jackson, Pat Sabatini. Both of us with Pat Sabatini. Pains me a little bit because I really like both of these guys, and I think they're great fighters. So for both of us, I know we both had Sabatini. This is going to be a great fight. It's on our Fight of the Night screen. Hernandez, Barrio. Both of us with the underdog Canadian in Barrio. Bozer, Nascimento. Both of us with the Canadian heavyweight in Tanner Bozer here. So both of us going Bozer. Pfeiffer, Amadovsky. We both had Pfeiffer. Feely, Algio split on the pick. I've got Algio. Matt's got Andre Feely. The co-main event, Joe Kawani, Rodriguez. I have Rodriguez. Matt has Joe Kawani. And in the main event, drumroll please, Corey Sandhagen taking on, holy smokes, it's that guy, Corey Sandhagen to get the win. Now I'm going to do something here. Oh, you can't. Oh, boy. I'm trying to put it in studio mode and turning down the volume. But I'll just go here and then I'll just turn it down on you. Dern Xiaonan, that's October the 1st. So that's the next UFC card that is coming out. We'll have a video for that next weekend. But if you're looking for your fix with Fight Night Picks, we have Dana White's Contender Series coming up on Tuesday. You guys hit that subscriber mark quite a while ago with 30,000. We promised you we'd do Dana White's Contender Series. Now we're getting into the later stages. Week 9 coming up this Tuesday. 5-fight card. It should be a lot of fight. A lot of fun. So I think it's going to be a good one with Contender Series this week. A lot of big time action in that one. You can find us live. Should be Monday night. We'll figure it out with Matt. He's the one that's sick, not me. So we'll figure it out that way. But yeah, you got a big time day and night, like that Kid Cudi song, of fights coming up today. Enjoy it all wherever you're enjoying it from. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. And as we always say, let's get into it.